Hello, everyone. This is the new show again. Axel and I, every Friday we bring in founders, the professors, sometimes occasionally investors, corporate executives to talk about AI. The reason is very simple. The mission of Neo browser is to bring AI to you so that it's easier for you to consume AI, to take advantage of AI. And we have a very strong belief that how you think about how you interact with the digital universe is evolving very fast. Neo will play a bigger and bigger role from here on. So with that, I want to welcome Pradeep, my former colleague from VMware days. This was a forever years ago. But anyway, welcome.
We're dating ourselves. Yeah, that's good, Howie. Yeah.
I'm
Happy to
looking.
do a quick intro.
Yeah, please,
And
please.
yeah, hi everyone. Great to meet you all. Axel and Howie, thanks for the invite again. I've been working in the enterprise infrastructure industry for a long time. For past 10 years or so, I built two companies, ContainerX and Fylamynt. ContainerX was acquired by Cisco, Fylamynt by NetApp. Before that, I was working at VMware. That's where I ran into Howie and many other folks. And one of the folks I worked with, Ashish Parekh, we are collaborating to start a new company working on BizOps automation. Before VMware, I was at Docomo Labs, and before that, I did my PhD from Michigan. If any Michigan alums, go blue. Yeah, happy to chat about the company, AI, anything else on your minds?
Yeah, my first question to start with, you and I have been in the infrastructure cloud space, right? The Container X was about container. Those are infrastructure things. So, and then last two started. This is the third time you are starting a company, serial
Right.
entrepreneur. But this is the first time you are doing an AI startup. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fair. Yes.
And I should ask you why AI, because AI is everything in it. But the third time you're starting a company, tell us the difference. Like why doing, it's not just why doing AI, like what do you see with AI? Like you've been around the
Yeah.
blocks, you've sold the two companies. What's new this time? Like why AI? What is the AI about?
Yeah, absolutely, Howie. I think that's a great question. And I've asked that myself that why start now? Yeah, I think the first company I did, ContainerX, was more about containers, that inflection point, virtual machines to containers. The second one was Filament was a more established market, like SRE was already there, right? But for this company, we've been working on automation for a long time, and automation always this challenge of handling natural language questions, right? Things like, hey, I want to just go to Salesforce and do something. I don't want to write like queries, things like that. So those have always been difficult to automate. There is a long tail of automation where people just say, hey, I want something. So we struggle with that. My previous company, we worked on a
Interesting. So
lot of
you are saying that you have always been an infrastructure person, with Container X, with
right.
when you sold it to NetApp, it's all infrastructure. This time is also infrastructure companies. However, this time
Yeah,
you want the infrastructure to be built with what?
LLMs.
Language, with agent.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So this is an automation company, and I worked in automation for a long time, writing poker chess bots for a long time ago. I think we talked about this, Howie. And uh, what changed is that now you can take natural language inputs and then convert that into code or workflows. So that's why we got excited. Because this long tail of automation is hard to handle with regular, like if you just do we did no code, we did like Terraform kind of things and many others, right?
Can you give us an example of the long tail thing that in the
Yeah,
past we don't have the technology to take care of it, but with AI
right.
we're able to take care of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one example would be like billing errors, right? So at NetApp, I own billing for the 100 million plus revenue SaaS BU, right? So in billing, when a customer might say, "Hey, I got overcharged," sounds very, very simple, right? I mean, this maybe in Stripe or other companies also face this. But overcharging can happen in many different ways. It could be as simple as that there is no problem, first of all, that like, hey, you didn't get overcharged. We checked your contract or your subscription. Everything is fine. Or it could be that your discount has expired. You got a discount first year, but second year that doesn't exist. And the customer is like, oh, you got overcharged. Or it could be that like a salesperson made a mistake and billing person made a mistake, and the list goes on, right? These are always tough to handle because what looks like one problem branches into a lot of this long tail of different systems, schemes. So that is something we can solve with
What's
LLMs.
wrong with solving those problems without AI? Can you get people to appreciate an AI more?
Yeah, yeah. So each one requires you to connect to each of those systems. Now that we can generate code for that, I was just talking to my co-founder just now. Let's say you want to connect to Salesforce, Oracle. I'm talking about business operations side of things, right? Or like more consumer side, Stripe and all. Um, that's one challenge that is much faster, much easier to address. The other one is like given a overcharging thing, you can generate all those scenarios because LLM already has this knowledge from Reddit. Trailhead is like a Salesforce knowledge base, things like that, right? So you can generate 100 scenarios and then quickly go through them. That is what we are doing, and
So
then
am
we
I
can.
understanding correctly that you are leveraging AI so that you can build a long tail software much faster? Before you can build a maybe for 10 or 20 things, but now you can build it for 200 or 2000
Yeah,
smaller
absolutely.
use cases are fast. That's where you see the value of the AI for infrastructure build out companies. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, you can run these scenarios, but with AI, right? Again, you use AI to deploy these workflows, connect to whatever systems, Salesforce, Stripe, and so on, right? And and manage the errors also, right? So that is the other aspect, which kind of killed a lot of automation companies. Many have kind of plateaued in terms of where they can go. That's going to be very exciting.
Cool, cool. And then we have a question in the Excel. Do you want
Yeah,
to go to it? There's a
Yeah, so someone is wondering, how do you think
yeah,
AI is
yeah,
going to
absolutely.
change the way founders are going to identify problems sort of in the future to build a company around? And of course, also on that point, how did you identify the problems in your first two companies?
Yeah, how will AI change identifying the problems? Okay, I thought of building the company itself. Oh yeah, this is like, I mean, game changing, right? Like I'm on ChatGPT deep research every hour, every day, right? Asking questions and generating a lot of insightful things, right? Yeah, I'm writing PIDs using ChatGPT as well. But in terms of identifying problems. I feel that like you should find problems that are as a founder or someone who's starting like a new project or other things, right? You have to find it exciting and see a problem that happens in real. Many times we have a solution in mind. I know as an engineer, technologist, I've done this before. We kind of start with solution, but instead start with the problem, talk to customers. That hasn't changed with or without AI, right? So you have to go to customers and ask, what is your top? I mean, this is my favorite question. What are your top three problems? How do you solve it today? Why is it not solved yet if it is top three, right? So I think with that, you can start any conversation and get a lot. But once you get, so let's say you talk to 20 customers, then you can do a lot of analysis. Like, yeah, I mean, I feed all my customer summaries to ChatGPT. It'll give you a lot of detail on how are these problems solved, what are the other things everybody else saw. I mean, because it has entire world's knowledge, right? So you can get all that feedback. And there are, I think, companies like ideobrowser.com and a bunch of others that where AI is generating ideas. That could be one way to explore. I personally like, I mean, it has to come from, I mean, what I call as your heart, right? It has to come from you in terms of the problems you want to work on.
right. So I think the your answer to the question about how to help you to identify the problems is not about identify the problem directly per se, but be your companion, be your learning buddy to explore
Exactly.
new issues. That's kind of what you found very useful. But otherwise, for your first two companies and then this one, the same way, right? You talk to customers,
Yeah,
what are their top concerns?
exactly. Very similar. In terms of the exploration, uh, I mean, I'm an automation guy, so I always think of automation things. But yeah, all three companies are very different. First one was more deep down infrastructure. Second one was a little higher SRE problems. This one is business operations or revenue operations, some would call it. And you go and talk to those people. And that you can definitely ask AI to. I mean, I've done a lot of work on revenue operations, market and size, things like that. That it can help a lot, right? It can give you what are all the companies, competitors. I mean, you can even ask, how do I compete with them, right? That's a good way to find out.
Are you, can you elaborate a little bit about your current, what you are trying to do to whatever degree you are able to share, just to share with
Right.
like, what does that mean by revenue, sort of operation?
Operations.
Well, what does that
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
What problem are you solving? Yes.
Yeah, so revenue operations is a broad term, and some people would think of it as like a workflow where lead to cash, right? So let's say you are a company and you want to find a customer. So you'll go out and do some marketing and then find some leads, and then convert them, hopefully, to buy your product. And then to do that, you do pipeline management and get them to buy the product. Then you do like a contract with them in case of enterprise or like a subscription, maybe consumer or some enterprises do as well. So that's called quoting, right? And then finally you get money into the bank, which is the cash part of it. Some people call this lead, quote to cash, which is the second part of it. So lead to cash is the whole thing. So we are looking at back office operations, which is starting from like quoting to always cash. I know this is like a very arcane thing, so like a lot of people are not familiar. But that is where I think it's quite underserved. A lot of manual stuff. People do these quoting and all with hand. Is essentially they generate the quote, but you have to fill the form and things like that. Same with the cash. I think I mentioned billing. It is a huge world in itself, just the billing problems. So that's what we are looking at.
Excel?
Yeah, I'm curious, do you see any trends in AI as we speak to many people in this space? Typically, sometimes they have a certain conviction about perhaps something that people are mistaking or perhaps something that people understand
Right.
mischaracterized. Do you have any of those beliefs that maybe people should avoid?
Yeah, I have my opinions based on, again, my experience, what I have seen. So one thing I am trying to understand more is, I think you guys are working in browsers. There is also like this agents that do things on UI, right? That has been an interesting area, like UiPath, the company, public company, started like that. What's called as UI scraping, right? And it was very hard to do earlier. And I mean, there is a lot of history of like auto hotkey and bunch of other tools in that area. Many companies tried. But now I think we're kind of going back to that old school 90s world of like UI scraping, but with LLMs. Uh, that I think it's interesting to see where that would lead to, right? So I understand the browser aspect of it, AI native browser, where you kind of talk to it or do a prompt to kind of browse. But the scraping aspect, like Perplexity and other folks have, right, where it goes and clicks for you, I'm not sure because that I think is just an artifact of, I mean, if it is, there is like a contra opinion. I think that is not as valuable as people think because
Interesting.
I personally have worked on UI scraping for bots and whether you use LLMs or not, they're not as successful.
It seems like a lot of people are definitely betting on that for a potential future. So where do you see the sort of the top AI maybe in the coming years? Where do you see the technology progressing? And particularly perhaps for what you're doing today with billing, etc. What would be the
Yeah,
best?
Yeah, I think there are various dimensions to this, right? Like, people are working on generating text, audio, video, code. All of them have their own kind of like future paths.
Mm.
To me, I think we will see, again, maybe this is more because I'm living in the world of agents, but we'll see managers, whether it is human or agent managers, kind of develop. Maybe there is some way of like defining them think about a human manager, right? They will have tools like email, let's call it inbox, right? And then they will talk to their employees, like project management. They will make decisions, like planning, let's call it. All these three, four things can be embedded into like a digital manager, AI manager. That'll be pretty exciting, I think. And I don't think anyone has figured out how to do that properly. Also, the orchestration of employees or agents, right? Because in a real human world, there are a lot of psychological things and managing people's compensation. All these things, probably some of that doesn't apply with agents, right? Like they're digital, but they have different problems. They will make more errors. They will behave in non-deterministic way. So that's one trend I'm really excited about. That like where would that lead in different dimensions, like let's say coding agents, dev agents, or agent managers, as well as other things.
So you've built, numerous companies, of course, and you've constructed some not in the era of AI and some now where AI is sort
Right.
of so prevalent, every business wants it. And so what's the largest difference, right? What is the greatest discrepancy if you look at founding a company before
Yeah.
and now?
It's the speed of development and the cost of software, right? The speed of development has extremely quick. We built our product in 2 months, literally. It would have taken much longer, and which
How many
really is
people?
fun. Two people, that's it. Me and my co-founder, and we had actually, I think, three contractors part-time. So let's call it five people. That's it. Yeah.
But full time, just you and your co-founder. Both of you are
Yeah.
still doing. You and your co-founder both are doing coding.
In fact, he is the one doing most coding. Yeah, I was doing nothing pretty much. Yeah, I'm doing only on the product side.
And then
Yeah.
your productivity is presumably much faster because of AI, right?
Off the charts.
So
Yeah.
can you give
Through the
us
roof.
can you give us an idea? Because you've been around the block, I got to know you more than 10 years ago. What's your productivity today with AI versus without AI? What's the difference?
Huge, huge. I always used to think I was productive, but now I know what it is to be highly productive, right? Yeah, I think there is huge gains in, like, for example, I generated like PIDs for like 10 or 15 agents in literally like 3 hours. And it produced like, I had to prompt it a little bit because I wanted it in a certain way, but it was 100 pages of like documentation generated in a format very close to what I would write. But imagine writing those PRDs one by one, thinking through that, doing research. That is just amazing productivity.
So
Of
those
course,
100-page PRD then consumed by what? What's your favorite AI coding agent?
yeah, so that's consumed by my co-founder Ashish, who's using Cursor. He's
Cursor.
using all kinds of tools, using the standard model as well as the coding agent that bundles with Cursor. I think it's relatively new. The productivity has improved, but I think the biggest challenge with coding generation is that how do you actually put architecture into it? Like you can generate a prototype very quickly. For example, you can build like multiple agents that we are doing, each one separately. But how do I orchestrate? How do I put nice architecture, error handling, things like that? That's a little harder to do.
So humans
Uh,
still have to do the architecture job, but let me just
right,
skip to the chase of it. So you're the person who's responsible for generating PRD,
right.
but leveraging AI tremendously. 100-page PRD is like it takes 3 hours for you to get there.
Let's call it,
And
yeah.
for your co-founders to finish the work for that 100-page PRD, how long does it take?
Yeah, I think he's already built two agents. Maybe like 2, 3. This is only recent because we've been working
Yeah,
on
yeah,
other
yeah.
things. Decided, well, let's call it like one agent per week. Probably you can build. Yeah. That's just amazing productivity. I mean, it's
Sorry, you
just like,
meant within a week, he finished the coding for that 100-page.
yeah. No, no,
So
I mean, we had like about 10 agents defined. But if you do it in parallel, right? Like if you have like 10 developers,
yeah,
then you would do
yeah, roughly a week. Is that true?
roughly a week
Yeah,
per
roughly.
agent.
So without AI, right? If this you would have done this 5 years ago or whatnot, how many engineers do you need for how many man weeks do you need?
I think it'll take roughly like 2 months or 2 to 3 months because we've done this in Filament, which is similar. I mean, we didn't do call it agent. It is more like a workflow orchestration.
So
Uh,
essentially what I'm hearing is a kind of a 10-man month work. It's still 10-man month, but it's 10 aging man month. Oh, sorry,
right.
10 man weeks, right? 2 or 3 months, it's like a 10 man weeks worth of work. Now you are also still doing that within 10 man weeks, but that 10 man weeks, you are doing that with 10 different, you
In
parallelize it,
parallel.
right?
Yeah.
And then you're able to do that within a week. So that's a tremendous amount of the saving in
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah.
One more question along this way. There is a lot of criticism for, hey, AI generated code is not maintainable, not as maintainable. What's your
Yeah.
yeah,
That is true. That is true today. Obviously, ChatGPT 5 is out and many others will improve. That is true primarily because I'll tell you, like, it's more like a greenfield versus brownfield kind of thing. So when you're getting started, it's like empty canvas of code, right? I mean, zero, right? Nothing. Then you're like, yeah, generate whatever you want. And it looks very nice. And it uses a certain libraries, whatever, right? Now you do prompting and you get it to what you want. Leave it for a few days and you build something else. Now you want to connect these two and then ask the Devin or whomever, right? Like cursor agents. Okay, can you connect and then make it better, reduce the duplication? That's where things become complicated. As well as like errors, right? Errors and debugging. I'll give you an example. Like, for example, we are doing Salesforce connector code is generated, all good, right? But now we want to add guardrails, right? So we want to make sure that like we have security, OAuth, as well as single sign-on, things like that. Now Ashish is like just like hammering on cursor, I mean the agents, cursor agents, as well as the LLM models behind that on how do we get that, right? He would have written it faster without it, but of course the original code doesn't exist, right? Authentication itself is not enough, right? You need the backend code also. So that's the thing I think people will figure out. As the code base increases, we have to figure out how do we use these agents to, are we going to get that 10x improvements? That is probably to be seen.
I see. So today there is 10x, latency improvement. Um, so you are playing the product role, and then your co-founder is playing the engineer role, right?
Right,
Think a product manager will start right. I mean, of course, you came from technical background, but in
right.
general, do you think a product managers will start becoming coder as well?
Oh, that is a very interesting question. Yeah, I haven't thought about it in detail, but I think product management is more about like, of course, getting the requirements and the prioritization. Um, yeah, I mean, with Lovable and all these things, maybe it's easier to build the product, at least the MVP. So let's say you have an idea and you want to show it to your team, leadership. I think that is much faster, right? So your product managers can be much more effective. Like earlier, it would be like, oh, you need to get dev time to do my this new idea. I think that would be much faster. But overall, the product management as a function, I don't know, like how much improvements it will be. Again, it's kind of like starting a company, right? Product management is about finding the customer problem. So we'll see. But coders, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously anyone can learn it, but you need to have certain skills. I think I saw one tweet where someone said that you can, how do you know you generated production code? You should have worked on production code to know that it is production code, right? It's like that. Of course, it generates code, but how do you know, right? So,
Very interesting, I'll let the audience, if the audience has any other questions, please bring that up or Excel yourself. But what I heard is quite interesting, right? 10 man weeks worth of the work. Now you translate that into 10
1 week.
man weeks, which is like you have 10 agents and then be done in a week. That's what I heard from you.
Yeah, that's fair, I think. Yeah. If we do in parallel, and of course, now connecting them together might take longer, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
interesting part.
Roughly, it's roughly, right?
Yeah, which is the interesting part. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Howie mentioned the maintainability of the code. You mentioned the fact that a human still has to build the infrastructure. So what do you think is the greatest bottleneck as you start to rely more and more on AI? Is it, the privacy and security concerns, or what do you think it might be?
It's the management or orchestration of all these different tools across the spectrum, right? I mean, code. If we are just talking about coding, like how do you make all these coding agents work together? Because people are guessing or people are thinking that okay, we can write these 10 agents in parallel, but how do you orchestrate or manage them? The other aspect is more of like the human versus AI or human plus AI, I should say. So let's say an engineering manager has employees, like real humans, and then digital workers. That's going to be like really crazy. I think there is some psychological aspects of it. I was talking to some people, they're like, okay, maybe I don't want to give this to that Devin agent. I want to do it myself. Otherwise, my job will be gone. Things like that, right? Um, that'll happen, or maybe it's not malicious. It's like, hey, I can do a better job because I know the code. I don't want to give it to Devin or some other agents. That is to be figured out, and it will happen more and more.
Hmm.
I think that's the bottleneck, right? How people interact with these agents.
Okay, and we have one more question from someone in the chat. So a few years ago, some people announced
No
that
code.
no code would replace developers. This did not happen, and ultimately the best no coders are coders/developers. Do you think the same thing will happen with vibe coding, that ultimately the best vibe coders will be coders/developers?
Yeah. So no code, I mean, I did no code automation for Filament because that was 6, 7 years ago. That was still very early stages. And then of course we allowed code as well because SREs want to write code. Yeah, it was an interesting segue for the industry, but no code doesn't work for many fields, especially for writing general purpose code for like an app or something like that. So I think that was a very clear thing that it was a very niche specific set of things it could do well. So that was not even a competition, right, for developers. But vibe coding, I mean, product managers or other folks who could get into coding, they may like it and they continue doing that, learn new things. Maybe they learn it from AI. um, I mean, whether we call it I mean, we had to define what is vibe coding, right? So maybe the vibe coders become much more mature and learn like some of the real coding as we defined it before AI. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know actually. I think the some vibe coders will be very good, better than developers, and that's that's my take on it. I think because I'm a big believer in learning new things. So I think people will learn some of these product. Let's say making a production system with vibe coding. I think that will happen. Someone will build it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Your observation is right, Matra, that the best no coders are the coders, in the last decade. But I think that's because the no coder platform didn't work. I think that's
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
it's sort of
it
a
only.
it didn't live up to the hype, right? I mean, the platform wasn't there. But this time around, I think it's going to be very different once we solve a few problems, like how do you do the quality control? How do you do the, manage of the, if you still have to do a lot of the orchestration yourself, they defeat the purposes, right? But if you truly know coding, truly, high quality, I think it will happen. So I'm actually, I think this time around it's going to be different. That's my view.
I think so. Yeah.
Myself, do you want to close off or?
Well, I'll leave it to Pradeep if you have a sort of parting message for our audience, any wisdom to share.
Well, I'm also learning just like everyone else.
Oh,
It's such a
before that, have you downloaded a Neo yet?
I did download. I haven't installed it yet, but I
Okay,
saw
okay,
the
definitely, use the activation code, install it, I mean, sort of do it, and then pass the feedback to Excel and then myself. And then
yeah,
we'll
definitely.
share with the community and everyone on the call, you automatically get activation code if you haven't got it, just to let Excel know about it. Okay, with that, you are parting wisdom.
Parting wisdom. I guess we have to keep learning a lot in many different areas, right? So I think that would be the parting wisdom that one thing I'm really excited about is that anyone can learn, right? So it used to be like when I was in college that like coding or like programming used to be like some like special skill. I mean, we all did, like I did programming contests, things like that. But I think now anyone can learn. So have an open mind in terms of learning things and ask many questions to ChatGPT or any other tools you folks are using. Keep learning. That'll be the parting thought.